picture this scenario for a second.
Yeah.
You have just spent, you've spent the last 2 years pouring absolutely every ounce of your energy into building a massive project.
Yeah, all your weekends, your sanity, just everything.
Exactly. Maybe it's a startup or, a make or break initiative at your company. And you finally drag this thing over the finish line. You catch your breath, you look up, and, well, your funding gets pulled.
Oh, man.
Right. Or the market shifts,
Yeah.
the client walks away, and you are immediately staring down a barrier that is fundamentally larger than the one you just crossed.
It is just deeply exhausting and, frankly, completely relatable.
It really is.
Yeah.
Life just so often feels exactly like this relentless uphill marathon that simply never stops.
Yeah.
You fix one massive crisis, and the universe just hands you 2 more. It leaves you feeling completely depleted, wondering what on earth you're doing wrong. But I was reading about this fascinating experiment from the early 90s, Biosphere 2.
Oh, right, the one out in the Arizona desert.
Yeah, that massive enclosed artificial ecosystem. So they planted all these beautiful trees inside, and the trees grew incredibly fast.
But they had some kind of issue, right?
Yes, exactly. Before reaching full maturity, they would just randomly collapse under their own weight.
Wow. They just fell over.
Just completely tipped over.
Mm-hmm.
The scientists were totally baffled until they realized the one crucial element they had left out of the biosphere.
What did they forget?
Wind.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. Without the constant battering resistance of the wind, the trees never developed what is known as stress wood.
So they looked great on the outside, but structurally, they were incredibly weak.
Exactly. They literally could not support themselves without having something pushing against them. The resistance was not just an annoyance, it was the entire structural foundation.
That is a perfect analogy.
And that brings us to the core of what we are unpacking in episode 13, the grand finale of our series on the philosophy of the obstacle is the way.
The finale, yeah.
Yeah, so today, we are taking all the theory from the previous 12 deep dives and distilling it into one diamond-hard mindset. We are exploring the exact mechanics of turning your absolute worst roadblocks into structural integrity.
That biosphere analogy perfectly captures the danger of an obstacle-free environment, I think. When we talk about flipping our greatest frustrations into our greatest advantages, we really have to look at the Germanic concept of Sitzfleisch.
Sitzfleisch. That is quite the word.
It is. Conceptually, it translates to a sheer, dogged staying power. It is the cognitive endurance to sit with a devastating problem, like that ruined 2-year project you mentioned, and just hammer at it until it breaks.
Right.
But, a lot of people misunderstand endurance. They think it just means gritting your teeth, hunching your shoulders, and waiting for the storm to pass.
Just surviving it, basically.
Exactly. But true philosophical endurance is not about mere survival. It is about actively anticipating the wind. To understand the mechanism of this, look at Thomas Edison.
Okay, Thomas Edison.
In 1914, his massive manufacturing plant in West Orange, New Jersey, caught fire. And we are not talking about a small blaze here. It was fueled by highly volatile chemicals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, green and yellow flames shooting hundreds of feet into the air. Edison is 67 years old at the time. He is standing there watching his entire life's work, which was an estimated $23 million in today's money, literally burning to the ground.
23 million? That is insane.
It is. And he didn't have adequate insurance either. By all conventional logic, this is the end of his career.
I mean, how could it not be?
Right. But he doesn't break down. He actually tells his son, go get your mother and all her friends. They will never see a fire like this again.
Okay, let me stop you right there. Because that Edison story is exactly where this philosophy completely loses a lot of people.
Really? How so?
Well, if I lose my business today or, I get a phone call with devastating news, I am not calling my friends to come marvel at the flame.
Right, it sounds a bit out there.
It feels deeply, fundamentally unnatural to feel genuine gratitude for a tragedy. It sounds completely detached from reality. We talk a lot about amor fati, loving your fate, embracing whatever happens.
Yes, amor fati.
But I have to be honest, looking at a burning building and smiling feels like the ultimate form of toxic positivity. How is this not just suppressing real human grief and pretending everything is fine?
That is a very fair pushback. But it is not suppressing anything. The distinction between toxic positivity and amor fati comes down to basic neurobiology.
Okay, I'm listening.
Toxic positivity is emotional denial. It is slapping a happy face over a devastating loss and telling yourself you shouldn't be upset. When you do that, your brain knows you're lying.
Because you are actively burying the stress.
Exactly. Your amygdala, which is the brain's threat center, keeps firing. Your cortisol levels spike, and you remain in a chronic state of stress because you haven't processed the threat.
Okay, so what is the alternative?
Well, amor fati, on the other hand, is a practice of radical cognitive reframing. Edison wasn't happy that he lost his money. He wasn't pretending the fire was a good
He
thing.
was just accepting it.
True acceptance acknowledges the heavy, painful cost of the obstacle right up front. You look squarely at the disaster and say, I am absolutely devastated by this. The cost is enormous.
So you validate the pain first.
Yes. But then you deliberately shift your brain's processing. You move the activity from the fear-driven amygdala into the prefrontal cortex, which handles logic and problem solving.
Oh, I see.
You fiercely search for the barely perceptible utility hidden inside the disaster. For Edison, the utility was a clean slate. He reportedly said, "Thank goodness all our mistakes were burned up."
That is wild.
He went to work the very next morning, secured a massive loan from Henry Ford, and his company made $10 million in revenue the following year.
Wow. The very next day.
Yeah. Amor fati is the deliberate biological shift from a threat state to a challenge state. It is turning what we must endure into what we get to rebuild. The good never comes for free, but the raw material for growth is always buried in the ash.
So it is not about forcing yourself to feel happy. It is about forcing yourself to be incredibly resourceful in a moment where your brain is basically begging you to panic.
Exactly. It's a highly active process.
That makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
But if we are scaling this up, if you're building a mindset that literally feeds on adversity, we have to look at the one obstacle that we cannot reframe, rebuild, or outwork.
Right.
The ultimate wall that every single one of us is driving toward at this exact moment. Mortality.
Yes, the final barrier. And the philosophical practice here is memento mori.
Remember, you will die.
We all know the translation. But what most people get entirely wrong about this concept is how they apply it.
How do they usually apply it?
They treat it like a grim reaper constantly hovering over their shoulder, making every action feel pointless because it is all going to end anyway.
Right, like a very nihilistic viewpoint.
Exactly. But the actual advanced utility of memento mori is the exact opposite. It is the ultimate perspective setter.
How so?
Think back to that massive career failure we opened with, the canceled funding, the wasted years. When you are in the middle of that, your brain interprets the loss of status or money as a literal threat to your survival.
Yeah, it feels like the end of the world.
But when you actively meditate on the absolute finality of your own death, you forcibly recalibrate your threat baseline. You look at the terrifying, humbling reality of your finite time on Earth, and you realize that waking up breathing is an extraordinary privilege.
That is a huge shift.
Against the backdrop of non-existence, a failed product launch is just data. A difficult client is just a puzzle to solve.
When you establish death as the absolute worst-case scenario, it completely strips the power away from the daily grind.
It really does.
If mortality is the hardest, most unavoidable thing you will ever face, you suddenly find this immense, liberating relief in knowing that absolutely nothing else left over on your plate is fatal. You lost the funding. Well, you are still alive to pitch a new investor. The project collapsed. You still have a pulse and a brain to build something else. It takes that crushing weight right off your chest.
Yes, it recalibrates everything.
But I want to bring this out of the existential clouds and into the listener's actual afternoon. Because the theory is brilliant, but life is messy.
Very messy.
Let us say it is 2 p.m. today. The listener just got an email that completely torpedoes their month. They hit that brick wall. They are angry. Their amygdala is firing. They are stuck in that loop of, why is this happening to me?
The classic downward spiral.
Exactly. How do they translate this high-level philosophy into a specific physical action in that exact moment?
The most actionable micro-habit you can deploy in that moment is cognitive reframing through service.
Service, like helping someone.
Yes. When you get that email and your internal narrative immediately shifts to why me, you are trapped in what neuroscientists call the default mode network.
Okay, the default mode network. What does that do?
It is a network in the brain highly associated with rumination, self-referential thoughts, and ego. As long as you stay there, the obstacle feels insurmountable.
Because you are only thinking about yourself.
Right. To break that loop, you have to forcefully disrupt the network. You must pause, step away from the immediate reaction, and ask yourself a completely different question.
Which is?
If I cannot solve this for myself right now, how can I use this situation to benefit someone else? How can you salvage some good out of this disaster for your team, your family, or your clients?
That is fascinating because it forces you out of the passenger seat. When
Exactly.
you focus entirely on your own suffering, you're just a victim of circumstance. But the second you start looking around to see how you can buffer the impact for your junior employees or how you can protect your family's evening from your bad mood, you instantly transition into a leadership role.
Exactly. And there is a profound biological payoff to doing this.
Really, like a chemical change.
Yes. When you shift your focus to helping others, your brain releases oxytocin.
Oh, the connection hormone.
Right. And oxytocin doesn't just make you feel connected to people, it physically buffers the stress response. It quiets the panic center.
Wow, I didn't realize it acted as a buffer like that.
It does. So by deciding to be of service, you are essentially administering a biological antidote to your own anxiety. You step outside of your ego, you stabilize the people around you, and in doing so, you clear your own mind enough to actually see the utility in the obstacle.
That makes total sense.
Being strong for someone else builds the exact psychological muscle memory you need to carry your own load.
It is the ultimate hack. You lift someone else up, and you accidentally build the muscle hypertrophy required to lift yourself.
That is a great way to put it.
Which brings us perfectly to the imagery that anchors this entire series. We've talked a whole lot about the mindsets, the history, the biology. But there is a standout thought from Marcus Aurelius that perfectly visually encapsulates what this transformation actually looks like.
Yes, I love this quote. He wrote, "When the fire is strong, it soon appropriates to itself the matter which is heaped onto it, consumes it, and rises higher by means of this very material."
That right there is the whole game.
It really is.
Think about a tiny, weak candle flickering on a desk.
Yeah.
If you take a handful of dirt and throw it on that candle, the flame is instantly snuffed out. The dirt destroys it.
Right.
But if you have a roaring, massive bonfire and you heave that exact same handful of dirt into the center of it, the fire does not go out.
It completely consumes the dirt.
It burns the organic material trapped inside, it uses the oxygen displaced by the impact, and the flames actually rise hotter and higher. The exact same obstacle that destroyed the weak flame literally becomes fuel for the strong flame.
That is such a powerful visual.
And that is the goal of this entire 13-episode journey. It isn't to avoid the dirt. It isn't to just survive the dirt. It is to become the bonfire.
Yeah.
When you achieve that level of cognitive endurance, whatever stands in your way literally becomes the way. You don't run from the resistance. You use it to build your structural integrity, just like those trees needing the wind.
And that requires daily execution. The true essence of any philosophy is action.
It has to be practical.
Merely listening to us discuss the neurobiology of stress or the historical resilience of Thomas Edison is not enough. You have to put yourself in the path of the wind.
You have to practice it.
These ideas must be rolled over and over in your mind until they move from an intellectual curiosity into a reflexive response.
So it becomes automatic.
Exactly. So that the next time you are under pressure, the next time your plans turn to ash, you don't panic. You engage your prefrontal cortex. You get better. You, listening to this right now, are both a thinker and a person of action.
I love that.
Those are not competing identities. They're the most powerful combination you can cultivate.
You have the blueprint now, so take it. Deliberately seek out the wind, lean into your weaknesses, and flip every single future obstacle upside down. Attack the frustrating emails, the failed projects, and the major. Life pivots with creativity and the absolute certainty that you are gathering strength with every single attempt. While this specific journey into the obstacle is coming to a close, the learning never stops. Be sure to like and subscribe to get notified about the next episode because we have some incredible deep dives lined up for you.
Before we officially sign off, I want to leave you with one final thought to explore on your own.
Let's hear it.
We established that passing a difficult level simply proves you have the capacity for a much harder challenge. So take a hard look at your life today. What seemingly impossible, deeply frustrating roadblock are you staring down right now? That is actually the universe's ultimate compliment to your strength.